So, Ms. Peterson, I'm glad that we finally found some time to get together. Your schedule and my schedule seems to have been crazy lately. Well, overall, I have to say Jamie's doing very well. We still have some of her IEP goals to work on, particularly related to writing skills. But other than that, she's doing really well at this point. Not sure what order, what would you like me to address first? Do you want me to talk about the English issues, or would you like me to give you more information about the regular classroom work? Writing happens throughout the day. We do have our specified time to work on their essays. They've been doing those personal stories and some creative writing. That's a specific time in the day that we do. That's where some of the issues are coming up. Now, but writing occurs throughout the day. Certainly within the social studies class, there are some reports to be written. Those things she's typing at home and bringing in. So it's not just the handwriting issue, it's more about grammar and punctuation in particular. Well, punctuation is often a problem. Actually, it's a problem for lots of kids. In Jamie's case, it's periods and commas seem to be the hardest part. I'm assuming part of that is because she doesn't hear English, and so she doesn't naturally sense where pauses are in a sentence or where the end of a sentence is. I don't know if that has something to do with the translation of the interpreter, or if it's just, I'm not sure why. I have asked the teacher of the deaf and hard of hearing to come in and talk to me a little bit about it and see if there's something else I can do in class time. Oh, that's a really good question. It's my understanding, and again, I'm still learning about American Sign Language and stuff, but it's my understanding that punctuation, like in written punctuation, doesn't occur in sign language, like it's not overt. The interpreter doesn't sign it. Isn't that right? Mm. Mm. I, as far as what the interpreter is signing, on the IEP, it says that the interpreter is supposed to be working in American Sign Language. Um, I'm not really in the position to evaluate that, so yeah, we have, part of that is the job of the teacher of deaf and hard of hearing in our school to come in at least, I think she comes in twice during the year to sit in the classroom for a little bit and watch the interpreter. I'm sorry? Well, I certainly can talk to her about that. One of the other things that I understand is helpful is that there's two other interpreters working in this school. And my understanding is that they help each other out some too. So I think that's helping too. Other than that, yeah, I'll have to sort of check on exactly how do we know they're doing American Sign Language. The interpreters, I think she has her certification, so my understanding is that she's qualified to be doing the job. I don't know if that has something to do with the writing or not, what exactly they're signing. But I did want to comment on your earlier point about whether or not during those writing exercises the interpreter needs to be more clear about putting in punctuation. That's certainly something I can talk to the interpreter about what is she doing now, what might be the way that that can work. And then again, like I said, I've got the teacher of the deaf and hard of hearing coming in, and she will certainly talk to me about what other strategies I can have, or I can use during those writing exercises. There's one other little, I think it's probably the same issue. She sometimes confuses tense, like past tense, future tense. Like, there are a lot of verbs that are really difficult. Things like go, went, gone, where the word itself changes depending on the tense. So I'm just going to employ the same strategy. Ask the teacher of the deaf and hard of hearing to talk to me a little bit more about what we can do to focus on that. Other than that, though, her comprehension seems to be just fine. She's able to read stories and answer questions about the stories. She's able to summarize stories, get what are the main points. She's able to do that. Yeah, I think she's doing pretty well overall. Just a few things with the writing we need to work on. Well, I'm sure you doing reading with her at home and working on tense issues and punctuation, for that matter, would be really, really helpful. I didn't really realize that sign language was using the same sign for different tenses and that the tenses were identified in a different way. But I'm very happy to hear that you're encouraging reading at home. That's not, a lot of parents don't do that, and it really makes a huge difference in all of their classes. If they're used to reading, if they're used and comfortable with reading, And if they read a lot of different kind of subjects or different kinds of books, so storybooks and history books or biographies, the more variety they can get at home, the better off it's going to be here at school. Oh, absolutely, there are. If you go, well, at any bookstore, if you look in sort of even the juvenile section, those books in there, I think biographies are really wonderful for kids to be reading about, just to get the idea that there are real people who have had these real experiences. They can get a different perspective on the world. So I really encourage the reading of biographies in particular. Oh, she's just fine in math. We have absolutely nothing to worry about. I think that she just picks up on stuff actually a little quicker than some of the other students. I don't know. She really gets, especially we've just started working with some, believe it or not, pre-algebra, a little bit of formula writing. The idea of an X number versus a real number, grasped it right away. So seems to be completing the work on time, seems to be fine during class. So don't have any concerns about her math skills. We have um, we have a science teacher that comes in 4 days of the week. And then on the fifth day of the week, we have an art period instead. So we have an art teacher that comes in and does that work. So we've got 4 days of science curriculum and 1 day of art. I asked them, both the teachers, the art teacher and the science teacher, to give me their feeling about how Jamie's doing. Both of them say she's doing just fine. The art teacher says she gets a little distracted. Like when she's kind of left on her own to do stuff, she tends to get really involved in what everybody else is doing, kind of very interested in, and I think it's because she's interested in everything around her, but times in some classes, especially when they're doing a lot of independent work, she'll kind of lose track. She'll be off into everybody else's stuff, and we have to kind of remind her that she's supposed to be on task for her own work. I find that some with the science experiments too. A lot of times I'm here in the room doing my work back at my desk when the science teacher is here, so I get a chance to get another look at the kids. And I don't know, I wouldn't say she's easily distractible, but she will get very into other people's stuff during independent work time. Well, sure. I mean, I don't think, yeah, I don't know that if I don't know if it's because she's a really visual person or if it really is she's just not that interested. So that's something I'm kind of trying to feel out, because maybe she doesn't really enjoy the art stuff and so she just gets bored, or I don't know, maybe she doesn't like science and that's why she's looking around for something else to do or talk to her friends. Well, you know Jamie. She loves sports. So she's been great. As a matter of fact, I think the coach has been talking to her about doing more formal sports, like working with the basketball team maybe next year in the fall. Because she seems to really enjoy it. She does it very well, but so far she hasn't been really interested in doing a lot of the team sports. But I think the coach has his eye on her for that. And other than that, she's fine. She doesn't have that distraction thing in PE class. My understanding is she's just fine there. And we didn't have any IEP goals for that at all, so I think she's just going right along there. Well, she seems to be fine throughout the day. As I said, she sometimes gets involved in discussions with the other kids. Um, some of the other kids have picked up some sign from the interpreter. We did some sort of teaching some basic sign stuff to some of the kids early in the year. We haven't really kept up with that, so some of the kids sign and some don't. But she has a little group. I don't know if she talks about them at all. She has like these two other girls that she talks to a lot, and I think sometimes they sign, sometimes they're mouthing, it seems like, to each other, or gesturing, but starting to do a lot more giggling too. I think that's just her age. You know, when you start to get into that, 10, 11, it's tough, because then they start to get giggly and start to pay attention to other things, and she seems pretty normal in that way, so she gets along fine with them. I don't see her interacting much with a lot of the other kids in the class. Yeah, and she participates pretty well. I get the feeling sometimes she'd rather just be reading the book or reading or looking at whatever it is we're doing rather than sort of answering questions and stuff. And we've tried to work it out with the interpreter so that she can participate as well as some of the other kids or in the same time. That's really hard to do because kids just talk, and it's been hard to kind of figure out the best way to involve her in discussions. I am not sure what she is talking about there because I certainly don't have any trouble with them talking to each other in sign. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what she's talking about. Oh, I know exactly what it is. It has more to do with these two other little girls that she likes to talk to. They started doing the whole, like talking under the desk to each other or something, or they would be signing during a lesson, talking to each other during class time. And so I did say to her that, and to everybody, that you were not allowed to sign to each other during, when you're supposed to be working on something else, sort of like talking in class. No, absolutely. I would hope that she's signing, and I would hope other kids are signing to her. In between when they're working together out in the hall. Yeah. Oh, absolutely not. But I think we're having trouble. I don't know how we can help the other kids learn sign more. Maybe I could ask to see if we could start those sign language classes again, or have somebody come in a little bit. Would you be ever interested in coming in and doing some teaching of some of the signs and stuff, especially related to like something we're talking about, science or something, whatever the topic of the class is. Well, I was thinking, like if we're studying the Civil War, that maybe you could come in if there were signs about some of that things. But maybe you're right, maybe just the conversational kind of signs would be better, just because that way they would use them when they're interacting more. I don't know, what do you think? I think all of that sounds great. Hope our schedules can work out. I know it's tough sometimes to find the time. But I like the idea, I really do. So let me think a little bit more about the best way to integrate it, maybe with the classroom activities. But I think that would be great. I think that'd be great. Wonderful. Oh, that's great. That's just great. I'll think about it some more, and I'll email you later. And is that okay if we kind of finish that discussion on email? Yeah, oh boy, the time is getting past us here. Okay, yes, overall she's just fine. I think really the only things that I've been noticing lately is the kind of getting involved with her classmates, not really paying attention or staying on task, and then some of the writing issues. Now the writing issues have been on our IEP, I think, pretty much ever since first, second grade. So I don't think I want to make any revisions to it, but that's one thing we'll be looking at the end of the year when we get ready to do the wrap-up IEP, when we start preparing. I think her 3-year assessment is coming up, so we'll need to be thinking about whether or not we need to write some new goals in particular, or if maybe we can get rid of some of the other goals. I can't even think, when I think of some of the other goals we have, she seems to be right on track with everything else. And she seems to enjoy coming to school. I think there are days when she feels a little bit more left out than others, just because she's the only deaf child in the class. But I see her in the hall with some of the other deaf kids, even in the younger grades. So I think she does have some friends here, some social friends. And she seems to get along really well with the interpreter in the classroom. So I really don't have a lot of concerns. I think she's doing just great. Well, and I really appreciate you taking the time to come in here tonight. So I'll be in touch. Great.